Welcome to Love the Life You've Been Given. This is a nonprofit organization for HIV and AIDS awareness, post-diagnosis peer counseling, suicide prevention, mental health awareness, and self-love. Please go to our website at lovethelifeyou'vebeengiven.org, our social media sites, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Love the Life You've Been Given. Please like, share, and subscribe to all of our channels and all of our social media accounts, please. We will have a open discussion for questions and or concerns at the end of the show. Please email us at info@lovethelifeyou'vebeengiven.org. You can visit our website and leave a comment. You can also comment on this video if you have any questions or concerns. Viewer discretion is advised for this video. It may contain explicit content. Today on the show, guys, we are having a special guest on our show. Her name is Imani Williams. She's a licensed graduate professional counselor, and she's going to be here to talk to us about mental health. She's going to be talking about different illnesses that you can develop after being diagnosed with HIV and going through that traumatic experience, and things that you can do to assist your mental health with getting through those things. She'll be joining our live via Facebook today, and she'll be giving us some information. So we'll just be waiting for her to join in. How was you guys' week, though? Pretty good.
The weekend was too short.
It's always too short. It's always too short.
Bunch of running around yesterday.
It's definitely always too short.
Oh, Tanya said, hey. Hey, Tanya.
Hey, Tanya. Y'all, we just trying to get the technical portion of this together so that she can join. So just bear with us. But I hope you guys are having a great week. Well, this is starting a new week. So I hope your week will be great. We're just waiting on the system here. And please remember to add any questions you have about mental health. She's here to, help us with the mental health questions and concerns. And definitely bring them to the table so she can answer any questions that you have. Next week's show is going to be health education. So we'll be talking about everything health related with HIV and AIDS, like how you get it, how it's contracted, how it's spread, different definitions for terms that we've used on the show, undetectable, untransmittable, all those type of things. And we'll have actual nurse here that will be talking about those things. She's an HIV nurse, and she'll be definitely able to give us assistance with that. Also, we'll be having another nurse coming on that will be talking about medications, HIV medications, AIDS medications, and be giving us information on different regimens so that we can get that information out to everyone. So while we're waiting, did you want to read the question?
Yeah,
because it does kind of sound like it's for me.
As far as your mental health, how do you think it affected some of your relationships with people?
For me personally, I went to a dark place after I got diagnosed and after I left my ex. So it definitely probably put a wedge between some relationships I had. I know I've actually met people after diagnosis and pretty much turned them away because I had what I had, and just was like, oh, whatever. And this is what I have. You don't want to stick around, whatever. Do your thing. Yeah, just try to push them away. I don't recall having any issues with friendships or things like that where it was a wedge drawn, because most of the time I would try to not talk about me being in a dark place. You know, so I would try to cover it up so you wouldn't know that I was in a dark place.
So do you think you still met people and we find new people in our lives every day, at a job, at an event, at whatever. Did you shut down and not, or did you still meet people, genuine people, friends, colleagues, just networking in general during that time?
I don't necessarily recall actually shutting down and not speaking to new people. I don't really recall doing that. Shutting people out exactly.
Okay.
But I don't recall making any really new friends after that, though. So maybe I did. and
Just
didn't even
unconsciously.
really, didn't really know it.
If you knew.
Or,
Yeah, there wasn't that many. We're talking about my dark place. We're not talking about like later on. We're talking about like in that dark place time period, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't remember not making new friends because of that. Not to my recollection at all. It still says admin, guys. I'm so sorry. I don't know what is going on. But yeah, I made friends, of course, afterwards. After I was in my dark place,
Yeah.
I got plenty of them.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's what's like, hold on, it's some
Yeah.
new people. Excuse us for our technical difficulties. We are going to try to get our counselor back online here. So just give us just a moment for her to join. Let's see if she's gonna join in. Let's see here. All right, we got one person watching. Hey guys, thank you for coming back. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Love the loyalty. And if this doesn't work, guys, I'm going to call her on FaceTime. And we're going to talk to her because we are going to get this mental health situation out there. So we are definitely going to do that.
Hi, y'all. So I guess I'll just introduce myself or give y'all a little background so y'all know who I am. So like Christina said, I am a licensed graduate professional counselor. What that basically means is I have a master's degree and I'm working towards my full license as a counselor in the state of Maryland. So that's pretty much all that means. Just a bunch of letters and fancy words, but something really simple. So anything that you all have questions about, I'm happy to answer. Like Christina said, I'm just kind of here to give you general information about, the just mental health after diagnosis, after receiving that type of news. And then just kind of a few things you can do to help you out at home if you're not quite ready to, pursue mental health treatment. And then whatever questions you all have, I'm more than happy to answer. So whenever y'all are ready, I can get started. If y'all have a question I want to ask first, I'm happy to answer it.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Imani. Again, I want to thank you for joining us today. That's awesome. I did have a question. I think we talked about it before. It wasn't on camera. But when you say you're a counselor, what are the differences between a counselor and a psychiatrist and a psychologist?
Got you. Absolutely. So it is very nuanced. It is very specific, particular, but it's not, it's a bunch of different people that all want to help you get better with your mental health. That's pretty much what it is. It's a team of people. So I'll kind of go through the three different categories you'll typically see. And there are other people who can help you with your mental health that are not necessarily licensed, such as like a life coach or different things like that. But I'll just kind of go through the three major ones. So a psychiatrist, like you mentioned, so a psychiatrist actually has a medical degree. Psychiatrists and psychiatric nurse practitioners are actually the only two people who can prescribe medications. So if you have a mental health disorder that kind of requires chemicals to be rebalanced, so say for instance, you suffer from depression, there are medications that can help you with the chemical imbalance that deals with depression, but the psychiatrists won't be there to kind of talk to you about your problems. They really just prescribe medications and deal with those types of issues. The medication that can be prescribed, you also can get that medication from a primary care physician. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about it, but the psychiatrist will not be providing any type of therapy or counseling outside of, like, if you have side effects with your medication or things like that. With a psychologist, typically a psychologist has a doctorate degree in psychology, counseling psychology, or something of the sort. And they have a doctorate, and they also have like a different kind of licensing body from what I'm going to talk about with counselors and those other professions. So they typically have like more of a research background. They typically specialize in particular types of therapies and things of the sort. And then with counselors, therapists, and clinical social workers, that's the umbrella I fit under. These are master's level clinicians. So these are people who have master's degrees. And typically they practice under the guidelines of their specific state. So, for instance, I am a master's level clinician working towards full licensure, but I am bound by the laws of Maryland because I'm licensed in Maryland. So there's, different guidelines of things for DC and Virginia, but they're pretty much the same type of things. Now, counselors, therapists, and clinical social workers pretty much kind of do all of the same types of things. With clinical social workers, they can be a little bit more focused on like the advocacy piece, and also they typically do case management as well. Case management is like if you need to help figuring out what benefits you qualify for, or different things like that, or getting you connected to resources. Not to say that counselors or therapists wouldn't do that, but clinical social workers actually have that kind of information and do that on a regular basis. So I know that's a lot, and I try not to make it sound
No, you're
too
good.
political because I can get lost. So if I get lost, let me know because I'll be like, okay, sorry, y'all.
It's okay.
The other way.
Hey, you know it's something you're passionate about, so I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I get too far left and y'all like, what is she talking about? Stop me, and I'll be more than happy to make it a little more simple because it can be a little complicated. But it is. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff as well. Like it's not, anything that doesn't make too much sense. We're not reinventing the wheel here. So
right.
Yes. Those are the basics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can get into like after going through that traumatic experience of getting HIV or AIDS, like what type of illnesses can develop.
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing I just kind of want to emphasize with, receiving traumatic news and that type of life-changing diagnosis is that, everyone reacts differently. There's not like, this is what you will be diagnosed with if you have a diagnosis of HIV or AIDS. So it's kind of like it depends on your reaction. It depends on, what traumas you've experienced. It depends on a lot of different things. It's not just cut and dry, and mental health is not cut and dry. Physical health is not cut and dry. So it's just really important to know that there are different things that you could be diagnosed with. So what I kind of want to do is just go through the big three that I think would be the most typical things that you may be diagnosed with if you've gotten this type of diagnosis and this type of thing is going on in your life. So the biggest one that I would say probably happens the most is depression. Or major depressive disorder. And I heard you, Christina, saying about you going into the dark place and
right.
not wanting to deal with people and not wanting to, deal with anything. You're just like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. And that is pretty typical of depression. So the things that I would say to look out for are hopelessness, isolating yourself, loss of interest in activities that were previously enjoyable, and mood swings, irritability. So there's a lot of things that go along with it, and yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense that I, am having a hard time. It makes sense that I'm feeling pretty helpless right now. So that is the biggest thing with depression and just kind of depressive disorder. So there's a lot of different disorders that can fall under that umbrella, but depression is a really big one that I would say is probably one of the more major diagnoses you could receive. And that's really with any trauma. That's with any type of event that changes your life. I mean, if we're even talking about, quote unquote positive events, having a child, postpartum depression, that's just a major life change. You just like, I don't know what to do with that. That's a lot. So can you imagine just like things, unwanted news or things that you never thought would happen? Like depression is clearly, something that can develop out of that. Another one that, people may not think of is anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So with anxiety, it has some of the same symptoms. The biggest thing is excessive worry, obviously. Just feeling really on edge, feeling like, this impending sense of something bad is going to happen. So that, can include restlessness, irritability, hypervigilance is a big one as well, and insomnia, which insomnia can kind of occur regardless with any of these diagnoses, but anxiety is a really, really big one. So with anxiety, just feeling like, wow, like this just happened to me. I'm feeling like, oh, something else bad is going to happen. Or if I tell somebody this, they're going to think this way about me. So having that anxiety, being hypervigilant, and worrying a lot about things that you didn't worry about before. So just a various different ways that anxiety can kind of manifest in that way. And the last one is obviously post-traumatic stress disorder. So I would say this is a big one depending upon how you contracted the virus. If it was because of a sexual assault, if it was from somebody that you trusted, if it was something that was extremely traumatic, more so traumatic than, just contracting the virus, post-traumatic stress disorder can be a huge one. Again, I would think that it would depend on kind of what traumas you've had in the past, how you contracted the virus, and a lot of different, factors. But that's a huge one too. With post-traumatic stress disorder, the things to kind of look out for are agitation, irritability, flashbacks, loneliness, self-destructive behavior is a huge one. So, promiscuous behaviors, increased substance abuse. Even really like neglectful behavior. Just, maybe you speeding down the highway, doing 90, no seatbelt on, drunk driving, whatever those things may be. Those are self-destructive behaviors. So, that thought process where, well, I didn't do this, so what am I doing? Like, why do I need to take care of myself? Another big thing with post-traumatic stress disorder are nightmares. So those kind of tie into the flashbacks as well. So again, if it was a very traumatic event, continuing to re-experience it and relive it. So those are kind of the big three that I would say come up the most. But those are, very, I don't want to say common, but those are very highly diagnosed disorders, just in the mental health field in general, especially depression, anxiety, those things that happen. And it's also very important, even, I'm not saying that, the other diagnoses can occur, but typically with those diagnoses, traumatic events kind of bring them to the forefront. So, say for instance, someone, because if we're talking like bipolar disorder has biological basis, and it has to meet these criteria because of that. So somebody has to have it. It's a genetic thing. But because this traumatic event occurred, you can now be experiencing bipolar episodes. So,
Wow.
it can it can bring stuff to light. So the onset of the disorder, like maybe somebody never experiences a trauma so severe that they know that they're bipolar, but maybe someone does. And then it becomes, oh wow, like we didn't realize you were bipolar, but now that this has happened, it's kind of manifested in your mental health. So again, not to say that any other disorder could have that, but a lot of the other disorders that we speak about, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, they have a biological basis, and they have like genetic predispositions and different things like that. So those can also be diagnosed, but it could be diagnosed as a result of the trauma that occurred.
Wow.
And yes, stop me if I'm giving a lot.
No, I mean, I didn't know most of that. Like, that's really, really good information. I didn't know that bipolar was genetic.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know that.
Absolutely can be. Yep. Wow. So one of the biggest things that people rule out with bipolar, if you don't have like a relative that was bipolar, typically they would diagnose you as bipolar. So there's a lot that goes into those diagnoses, and a lot of times, especially in the African American community, we don't seek treatment, and especially the generations before us. We don't know what we had. People were crazy. You know, you got a crazy uncle somewhere. But we ain't got no clue. You don't know these things. You don't know that maybe your aunt was depressed. You don't know all these things that occur. So I think a lot of times we don't know what's going on in our own genetics. So we don't know like what we're at risk of. We don't know, what's going on. So yeah, there's a lot of that going around. I know a lot of my clients are like, well, my auntie was crazy and she was committed, but I don't know what she had. And they sitting here with bipolar disorder, like they don't know. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's good things to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't always know that about our families. And a really big piece that I want to be sure that I touch on, because especially with traumatic events and just in general in the climate that we live in, are suicidal thoughts. So these things that nobody wants to talk about, nobody wants to touch.
Right.
That's what you need when you're feeling suicidal, is help. One of the best things you can do for your mental health, even if you're not suffering with anything, is just to have support. Have people that you can talk to. If you don't feel like you can talk to your family, have friends, have someone. Because at the end of the day, like, that is what stops. I don't know how many times I've done a safety plan with a client that has suicidal thoughts, and the only thing that keeps them from doing that is their family, is the people that they care about. And that's a very powerful piece. It's a very powerful thing, and especially with the HIV or AIDS diagnosis, I can't even imagine, but I'm sure that's probably one of the most isolating things you could experience.
Absolutely.
And from that's why you have to be careful, because a lot of the mental health diagnoses that we're talking about, one of the symptoms is isolation. One of the first things people do is withdraw from people around them, because they feel, they're upset, they're depressed, they're ashamed. So with suicidal thoughts, it's super, super, super important that you have support. It's super important that you talk to at least one person. Because each person that you kind of, trust and share that with, the higher likelihood is that you will survive those thoughts. Because in themselves, there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. People feel that way. And it's just important that you express them and you get help. I know, there's a suicide hotline number. We know those things. And a lot of times people just they don't use them because they're ashamed. So yeah, that's I just always want to make sure I say that, especially since it seems like it's taboo in some ways, but in other ways people just kind of, well, I feel like I want to do this, and they don't take it seriously. And I think it's something that as a mental health professional I always take seriously. If somebody says it, if somebody kids it, we take action on it. So yeah, that's another piece I want to make sure I touch on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also want to say, and I also want to say that you don't have to have a diagnosis to go to therapy. You never have to have you don't have to be depressed. You don't have to, fit into these categories. Especially with, receiving a diagnosis such as this, like, you need some therapy. Even if you don't feel so depressed that you sit in your house for 6 days. Like, you need something. You need something to kind of sort out, well, what do I do now? Where does my life go? And whether that be, professional therapy, whether that be life coaching, whether that be groups. I think groups are awesome, especially to kind of build those relationships and build a support system with people who are dealing with similar things that you're dealing with. So, you don't have to always, well, I'm not super depressed. Like, I don't feel like I have major depression, so I don't think I can go to therapy. No.
Right.
That is like going to the fire station after your car is already burned, your house is on fire. Like, you don't have to do that. You can have smoke detectors. Like, you can go in there and, like, just, So, yes, I think everybody needs therapy, but that, probably sounds like I'm just trying to make money. But listen, everyone needs therapy at some point in their lives. It's not like you're going to have some type of transitions. And I think with huge transitions and diagnoses like this, and this is a major life changer.
Yeah.
And it's super important to have, and again, not trying to plug for mental health professionals, but, we went to school for that.
Right.
We're here to help. Yeah. But I also do want to say that the most important thing is that you feel comfortable. Never push yourself to go into therapy if you don't feel like you're ready. Never go to a therapist that you don't like, because that's not going to work for you. Like, and maybe your friend goes to therapy and says, hey, you should go to my therapist. She's great. Like, you might not like that therapist, and that's okay.
You always go to another one.
Right.
Don't stop there.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's like, this is probably one of the most intimate relationships you will have with someone that is not, a family member or a significant other. Like, you leave a lot on the table in therapy. And you have to be comfortable with that person to do that. You can't just sit in front of somebody day in and day out that you don't like, or you can't relate to, or you don't feel like it's listening to you, and make it anywhere. You're not going to make any progress with that. So I'm an advocate for, finding a therapist that looks like you. Which is what has pushed me into the work, because I've had too many white lady therapists that don't know what they're talking about, so let me be one. So it's very important to feel comfortable, because regardless of what your diagnosis is, what's going on, I mean, for the work to be meaningful, you definitely have to trust that person. It's no different than, it's a lot different than other relationships, but it is a unique relationship. Like, I know all my clients' business, but I don't know them, if that makes any sense.
I understand.
It's just, it's a lot, and it's rewarding, and it's good stuff. So when you're struggling, there are definitely resources out there.
You definitely have to be open too, because you have to be able to open up. Because I know a lot of people like to hold stuff back, even when they go to a therapist. They or lie about stuff. Like I say all the time, like, don't lie to your doctor.
Right.
Like they have that confidentiality thing for a reason.
Right.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times it is also on the therapist to make you feel comfortable. I do feel that responsibility for my clients. I do have to. A big thing that we always say as therapists is, you have to meet the client where they are. Right. If they're able to get themselves in the door, great. We're going to work with what we got. Because sometimes the hardest part is for you to just go to therapy. To show up on a consistent basis. To wake up and especially if you're depressed. I gotta get up and wash my behind, go see this therapist. Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot. I actually went to a therapist.
That is a lot, and even like I have a part-time in community-based therapy, which means I go to people's houses, and even still, that's a lot for them.
Wow.
To just talk to me, to give me something, and we're in their home. So I always can acknowledge and appreciate that. And if you get a good therapist, they will too. So it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. I will say that, and I'm thankful that my clients, when they do make progress, because I have clients that start off not telling me anything, and then we get into it, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, such and such did this. And I'm like, oh, well, that helps me paint a better picture of what's going on. And that's another thing I will always say when I'm advocating for mental health treatment. Listen, if you think you're going to go in there in 3 weeks and you're going to be good, no. It's a process. Like, it didn't take 3 weeks for your life to be what it is. It didn't take you 3 weeks to get into the mess. We got to take some work to get you out of it. So, all of that being said, that I don't even know how we got here, but it's good.
No, very good.
So, definitely, I think it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of different ways your diagnoses could go. There's a lot of different things that play into diagnosing after receiving traumatic news. And a lot of times what I've seen is that, because I've worked in like pervasive mental health, like people who, are schizophrenic.
Okay.
But they were schizophrenic before they got HIV. So just imagine like how, things kind of progress. So adding another trauma on top of the things that have already happened. So it's a lot. But there is help, and there are people that are dedicated to doing the work with you. Because it's not us doing the work for you. And it's not you doing the work by yourself. It's a partnership. You the pilot, I'm the co-pilot. That's how I always, first session, I'm like, hey, y'all. You're the pilot. You know what would feel better for you. You know where you want to be. And I'm here to help you do that. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I got a lot of information from that.
Yeah.
And just like you talking about the different things that can develop, I was actually just like thinking back to when I got diagnosed and I was in my dark place. I was thinking about different habits that I picked up. Like, I realized that after I was diagnosed and after I broke up with my boyfriend, I started smoking cigarettes. So now I'm kind of thinking, was that like, brought on because of that, maybe?
And that's another thing I always talk about with clients is like, what do you do to cope?
Right.
What do you do to get that stuff off of you? Because it's not always good stuff. Like smoking cigarettes ain't great. But it's not, there's people who decide that they're gonna smoke crack. There's people that decide that they're gonna, take K2, do whatever they're gonna do. So there's better coping skills. There's good coping skills. Like, I'm going to go work out instead of doing something. There are bad coping skills, which is, overeating, smoking cigarettes, doing different stuff like that. And then there's, like, really, really bad self-destructive ones that people are pushed into, or even, I want to even say it's made worse. So, like, if we're talking, like, risky sexual behaviors, maybe that's kind of like what got them the diagnosis, and then it's just more. They're just like, well, forget it then, because I'm, I have HIV, like, whatever, I don't care, like, I can't do anything worse. So there's a spectrum of things that people do. So, with the depression, that's kind of like the withdrawal. The anxiety is kind of like the hyper arousal, like the hypervigilance. And then, with PTSD, that's like we going out and we're being destructive, or more destructive than we were. So there's a lot. There's a wide array of things that can happen. But I do think, what you're saying. Yeah, I started smoking cigarettes. That's a very good observation. You're like, wow, like I didn't even notice that I picked this up, or yeah. And a lot of people don't. You don't recognize that till maybe somebody pointed out. You be like, oh yeah, I did do that.
Because I hated cigarettes. I could not stand cigarettes. I swear. Even the ex that I was with, he smoked cigarettes. I made him stop smoking cigarettes, and then after I left, I started smoking them. Wow. And I'm just now thinking about that when she's talking about these different things. I'm like, wait a minute, that could definitely be why. Wow.
Yep. Behavior.
Do you have like any I know you want to promote going to a therapist and actually speaking to someone. Do you have anything like any things that people can do at home maybe?
There's a few things. I don't want to say that they replace therapy, because they don't. So the number one thing I would say is your support system. There is nothing you can do without a support system. Or I should say, there's nothing you can't do with that with a support system. That is a huge, huge, huge thing. Finding people that are helpful to you, that are there to support you, and all these things like that. That's the biggest thing that I would recommend. If you're not ready to kind of approach therapy. I would also say just positive coping skills. So a couple of those, one being physical exercise, as cliche as it sounds. It helps your health, it helps your physical health, it helps especially with depression. Getting up and actually exercising or actually moving or getting outside or just those really simple things can be really helpful. Meditation is another positive coping skill. YouTube has so many videos on there. Meditation, like literally just follow the instructions. Yoga, these different things that are really simple that you can do. I would also say journaling. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Definitely. Journaling. Especially if you're not ready to talk to somebody. If you physically just can't, the words can't come out of your mouth, because I know that makes it so real. So writing it down, like I'm not ready to talk about this, but I'm ready to write about it. Journaling. I think that's awesome. I mean, just anything that brings you joy. Regardless of, maybe you need to smoke cigarettes for a little bit. Maybe that's going to help you. Maybe smoking weed is going to help you. That's not a long-term fix, but if it's something that can get you somewhere, okay. Maybe we can visit that until we can get where we need to go. Because, again, therapy is not like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go to, it's not like going to get a physical. It's really not. Like, the doctor's not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, how about this? Okay, well, we'll weigh you. We'll do, no. That, it's not the same. And I don't ever want to minimize it and make it like, well, you just need to go to therapy. No, because people are not ready to go. And even the people that are in therapy may not be ready for therapy. And that's okay. But and again, I'm biased, I feel like therapy and mental health treatment are some of the best ways for you to get through stuff like that. And again, it's when you're ready. So you can do stuff like kind of just build your positivity. Take a vacation, go to the beach, do something.
Yeah.
But I will continue and always will emphasize, because even when you're in therapy, if you don't have a support system, your therapist is not your friend. Your therapist is not somebody that is going to continue to be in your life forever. That's just not what it is. So support as much as you can. And I tend to think that support groups and kind of self-help groups and things like that can be a bit more approachable than therapy, because therapy is you and the therapist.
Right.
Sometimes it'll be your family, sometimes it'll be somebody else there, but it's you. It's very raw, and you're very vulnerable. And I totally get that. So I think, if you're not ready quite yet, you definitely need support. You definitely need to involve yourself in positive things. I think even if you're ready and if you can kind of handle it, volunteering or doing different stuff like that can be very useful and helpful. But at the end of the day, I tend to think, in my biased opinion, that therapy is the way to go.
That's the way to go, yeah.
Yeah, because I just, we don't do enough therapy in the Black community, and I think, especially as pervasive as HIV and AIDS is in our community, we lacking. We need to do better.
Absolutely.
With that, but yeah, it's about when you're ready, because it ain't gonna work if you're forcing yourself to do it.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So
great.
Yeah, questions. That's all I had.
That was awesome. That was really great.
That was very, very informative.
Yes, I got a lot.
I'm glad. I think I take it for granted. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I need to say some more stuff, but
no, you are fine. Like that was, very informative. I got a lot from that.
Yeah.
alone.
Okay.
Our live stopped for some reason. However, we are still recording this on my computer,
Okay.
so we'll post it later.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if anybody wrote in and said they had any questions. Did they?
I didn't get anybody.
You didn't get
You haven't
anybody.
checked yours.
I haven't checked mine. Let me see. Let me see if anyone inboxed me real quick. Yeah, because my lap got off. It doesn't look like it. I don't know if they got that message though, because someone had to send out saying, send your questions in. Yeah, I didn't get anything. Do you ladies have any questions for her?
No, that was a lot. That was great. I was like, oh, maybe I need to go see if this is part of my insurance plan. Let's see if they cover something.
But most of them do though.
Yeah.
Like even having like Medicaid, they cover that
Because
stuff.
I went a few years ago. It was very therapeutic. Like it was very.
Yeah, like it's a release.
Yeah, it's a release. You talk to somebody who doesn't know you personally, and so they can't really judge you. Yeah. Well, they're not supposed to judge, maybe in their own mind, but they don't say it, you know. But it was very, very like lightening, like
a weight lifted off your shoulders. Yeah.
Because I went after. Remember, I had the anxiety attack a few years ago. Yeah, and I had a lot going on. Went to go talk to somebody, and it was very uplifting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
I need to go back.
This is making you want to go back like
new stress. I need to go talk about it.
Yeah.
Get off your chest. You know that what stays in that room is in that room, and no one else is going to hear about it. Just get it all out.
I definitely think there is a lot of merit to telling somebody that don't know you. Because they can't, and it's literally not our job to tell you like what to do or to judge or any of those things. So it is really helpful because you're not, you're not poisoning the well because you say something and then your family's like, well, why you do this and why you do that and why you go back to this person, and just like, all right, you ain't even hearing me. So, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I am going to, like I said, I didn't record properly, but I am going to upload the video on YouTube, and I'm also going to upload it on Facebook. So if I do get any questions later, do you mind if I maybe text you and let you know?
Please do, and I will be happy to answer them.
So I think that's the route we're going to go. I want to thank you again for joining in.
No problem.
This was fun. Yes. Look, if I need you again and I can get my computer to act right.
Please don't hesitate. This is a great cause. I'm with it. Whatever y'all need, just let me know.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you know when I post it so you can go and, I'll probably tag you in it though. So, they know it's you. But thanks again. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Bye,
y'all.
All right, guys. That was Imani, and she is a licensed professional counselor. She talked to us about that great information. I mean, I got so much from that. I want to go to a therapist now too. Okay. just to get whatever is out. Just release it. So I definitely thank her for joining us today. Guys, I do apologize for the technical difficulties, but please stay tuned. Next week we'll have 2 nurses to talk about your actual physical health and how you get HIV or AIDS, what it does to your body and things of that nature. We'll also be talking about medicines. So please stay tuned. We'll be back next week, and you guys have a great night. Always remember to love the life you've been given. Bye, guys.
Bye.